Midnight on a Monday. Anyone out right now is not someone you'd want close to you, let alone in your car. I had no choice. Car service was the only reliable way for me to make extra money at the moment. And what I did make wasn't much. This town wasn't exactly bubbling with nightlife. There were a handful of bars, and one of them was in a bowling alley. I would drive around during last call and look for any stragglers who were too responsible to drive drunk, which was not as many people as you might have hoped for. Drunk driving was a way of life round here. And one great thing about global warming is that it had extended the fall. The calendar was nearly hitting December, and I didn't even need a jacket tonight. I saw a couple of booze hounds stumble out of Wood Tavern, so I pulled up alongside and rolled down my window. Before I could even ask if they needed a ride, one of them waved me off, while the other told me to keep driving if I wanted to keep my chin. I did a loop in case more followed suit, but the only person I saw walk out next was the owner, Doris. She smiled as she locked up. I was off to the next bar to see if I had more luck. This is it, what my life had become, hoping for luck. Two things you had no control over. There was a game on tonight. There was always a game on Mondays during the winter. I'm assuming it was the Patriots. Around here, Monday was really an extension of Sunday, which was conjoined twins with Saturday. The week didn't really start until Tuesday. That was one of the reasons I had been failing to make ends meet recently. Not much job growth. Or any growth for that matter. Exeter, Rhode Island. When your hometown kinda sounds like the word exit, you know you're in trouble. Everything about Rhode Island was small, including Exeter. A population couldn't be much more than 5,000 or 6,000 all told. Yet I think that was considered big for Rhode Island. I don't know, I can't remember, nor do I really care. I just want to save up enough money so I can leave. I've had my eyes on Key West for a couple of years now, ever since I drove that one couple home. This couple was in town visiting their kids/grandkids. It was snowing that night, heavy snow, as if the clouds were puking. This couple had such big, warm smiles. I was so jealous that they were going to head there to go home. I couldn't shake it. They seemed so blissfully happy in such a sincere way. I remember when they got out of my car, I wanted to grab onto their legs and let them drag me back to Key West with them. They told me to look them up if I ever visited. After they got out, I drove back home to a place that has never felt like home. Dreary. That's the best word I can use to describe my situation. D-R-E-A-R-Y. Dreary. I had a tiny apartment that I had to share with someone I met on Craigslist. They were nice enough, the operative word being enough. They paid for their fair share of rent on time, but they would sleep until like 1 or 2 on weekends. And it wasn't even like they were some wild child party animal. They would just sit in our tiny shared living room watching Family Guy or Everybody Loves Raymond for hours, and then get up just as I was finishing a long shift. Yes, I had multiple jobs. My other job was waiting tables at Lenny's Deli. I got the morning shift, which meant I got in around 5 and left around 1. The opposite of my roommate, who, should I mention, never cleaned the bathroom. I mean, never. I could have asked them to, but if they can't take it upon themselves to do it without me pestering them, I was exhausted. I don't know how I got here. It's like someone drugged me and dumped me onto the side of the road, and when I woke up, this was my life. And it was my birthday tomorrow. The big 3-0. That's when I saw her. Well, first it was the hair. The red hair. It was soothing. I could see it from all the way down the street. And the way she walked. It felt like she was floating. I couldn't see her feet beneath her coat. She was just sort of gliding along the sidewalk. The last time I saw that kind of blissful smile was the Key West couple, and she didn't seem drunk, but that smile was wide. So maybe she was on something else. Either way, she was walking and not driving, so it was worth a shot to ask if she needed a ride. That would be lovely. Thank you. I unlocked the door and she got into the back seat. I couldn't place the accent. It was definitely not the Rhode Island accent, that watered-down Boston vernacular. No. This was way more sophisticated. And she smelled great, too. Good Lord. It was rare that someone at this time of night had an odor I embraced. Where you heading? She took a big, happy breath and then asked if I could just drive around town for a while. I love this time of night. What a great answer. I, too, had grown to kind of appreciate this time of night. When I was alone, at least. It was so calm. The world is so beautiful when it's sleeping. She asked if I grew up here. I told her I did, unfortunately. She asked why was that unfortunate. I said I was joking. I couldn't tell if she had been offended, so I tried to play it off. She had amazing skin. It was milky white but smooth, like a vanilla swirl from Carvel. Maybe I was just hungry. It had been a long day. I love Carvel too. Carvel? Did she just say she loved Carvel? Did she just read my mind? How hungry was I? Can you hallucinate from starvation? And then I saw it. The cup. The empty Carvel cup under my radio. That's not good. For someone complaining about how their roommate doesn't clean up, here I am with an empty Carvel cup that has to be at least 2 weeks old. I responded, "Oh, yeah, the best." I smiled and nodded, relieved that she had not read my mind, but instead noticed my sloppiness, which would no doubt result in a less than stellar tip. Be clean, be silent. That was the advice from my best friend after I told her I was going to become an Uber driver. And offer them water. Oh yeah, that was the third thing. Did you want some water, ma'am? I wasn't sure if ma'am was appropriate. Her skin was throwing me off, she looked younger than me, but she spoke so well. I could have gone with miss. Miss was a safer bet, damn it. No, thank you. I'm in the mood for something sweeter. When she smiled, her head would slightly tilt as if she was motioning for me to look at her. Then she asked what I did when I wasn't driving. I wish I had a better answer. I told her that I was also a waitress, and that I wanted to save up money to move. She seemed to be listening. It was hypnotic. Anytime we locked eyes through the rearview mirror, it felt like I was being transfixed. Then she asked what I had planned to do once I got to Key West. Great question. Another one I didn't have an answer for. I said I didn't know, but at least I wouldn't be here. What's wrong with here, if you don't mind me asking? She seemed genuinely curious, as if she was interviewing me for the New York Times, something that would most likely never happen. So maybe I should just embrace this feeling of significance while it lasts, as fleeting as it may be. Time to turn the tables a bit. I asked if she was from around here. I am, she said. I found it to be charming, but I can see how it may be off-putting as well. What a diplomatic answer. This woman should run for senator. I'd vote for her. I had no idea who my senator was. Whoever it was, they weren't as good as... Mercy, she said. I should have introduced myself earlier. I smiled. Blushed, more accurately. As I told her my name was Deborah. Deb. People call me Deb, I told her. Nice to meet you, Deborah. The heat inside my car was not due to climate change, excluding the one time I made out with Melanie Ripple, while very drunk. I had never hooked up with a woman. As much as I hate men, I can't quit them. Reason 75, I need to get out of my own town. The men around here who are still single for valid reasons. I needed a new crop. Regardless, it would appear that Mercy is sending out some vibes that I am not totally against. I hadn't gotten laid since Carvel, so... Well, actually not that long ago. But the sex was bad. Kevin Benson, yuck. He was breathing so heavily onto my neck that I thought he was going to literally die. The only way to cheer me up after that was to get Carvel. God bless ice cream. Oh no, I think that gentleman could use a lift. I looked over. She was right. This guy was stumbling over a straight line across the street. He was hiccuping and walking on imaginary stilts. Perhaps we should see if he needs a ride. Well, it would appear I misread the situation. Unless she was about to propose a threesome. I had no compass with this milky white goddess. Her coat would slide off her legs seemingly only when I would look to the back seat. That can't be a coincidence, right? Maybe this was part of my destiny. I would make vehicular love to Mercy and then enter Key West as a proud, effervescent lesbian who specializes in oceanography. It had a nice ring to it. This drunk guy did not. He seemed like a puker. I was hesitant to open my door. Mercy opened hers. Do you need a ride, sir? One of his eyes looked at me. The other was looking at Mercy. His body was like a Jenga tower. When he stood upright, it looked like he was trying to balance an invisible hula hoop.
Yeah.
I think that was a yes. He took 2 steps closer to the back seat as Mercy backed up. He got in. It was more of a head-first tuck and roll. His pants nearly slipped off behind him as I got out and tried to close the door without breaking his feet. I meekly lifted up his boots and plopped them inside as Mercy sat against the other side. She seemed tickled by the whole scenario. He had his Patriot sweatshirt on and a snow cap, itchy beard. Occasionally, he would close his eyes real tight and then open them wide as if this was going to sober him up. It didn't. Mercy asked him where he had lived. He responded with what sounded like a gorilla getting kicked in the nuts. Some sort of prehistoric drunken gargle. Mercy saw his wallet had fallen out along with his dignity, so she picked it up and looked at his ID. She read the address. We had a destination. Hooray.
Under the shadows where the moonlight fades, echoes of the past, not just ghosts in the blaze. Walking through the mist, faces lost in the haze. In the city of blues, I'm still counting the days. Emerald dreams in this haunted night. Sapphire tears under neon light.
Getting this hammered linebacker out of my tiny Honda was not easy. Mercy had to guide and lightly push as I encouraged and lightly pulled. After about 30 seconds, we got him out, but he seemed confused as to where or what he was. Mercy offered to guide him towards the house. His was much bigger than mine. The house. I didn't even have a house. How was this buffoon doing better in life than me? If he was not intoxicated to the point of ineptitude, I might have been able to ask him. Instead, Mercy gently walked him to his front door, and she even helped him get inside. I waited by my car. It was a nice night. The moon had this red tint that gave it an extra shine. It radiated in the same way that Mercy's hair did. His street was empty. I tried to see if I could see my breath. No such luck. It had been a couple of minutes since Mercy had helped him inside. I got worried. What if he... I walked up to the front door. As soon as I was about to open it, Mercy walked out with a big smile and shut the lights off behind her. All tucked in, she said, walking past me towards the car. Her place was at the other end of town, Nooseneck Hill Road, the wealthiest strip in Exeter. I mean, I wasn't surprised. Part of me wondered if she would invite me inside. What if I said yes? Perhaps it was more of a to be continued. She told me it was lovely to meet, and that she had hoped to see me again. You too, I said. My blush was brighter than the moon. And then I saw my tip. $200? Holy crap, I thought. Ruby had called out. Ruby never called out. She owned Lenny's Deli. It was her baby. The only thing she treated better than Lenny's was her actual baby, who was now a grown man and would come into the diner sometimes to eat for free and chat up the customers. When I walked in and she wasn't there, I was shocked. I had been working here for nearly a year, and Ruby had always been the first or second face I saw when I walked in. I asked one of the cooks where she was. She said something happened to her nephew. That's all he knew. Meanwhile, I couldn't stop thinking about Mercy. I kept hoping she would glide inside and whisk me away to her yacht or whatever first-class mode of transport she preferred. We could travel the world and try fine wines, sharp cheeses, whatever else besides wine and cheeses wealthy people indulge with. Instead, it was the usual Tuesday morning, which was about as thrilling as sex with Kevin Benson. Eggs over easy with black coffee for Stewie, bacon and broccoli for Petey, blueberry muffin and iced coffee for Brian. Thrilling. By the time I woke up from my afternoon nap, it was dark. I went into the kitchen and saw that my very considerate roommate had run the dishwasher. And then rather than empty it once it was finished washing, they took out a plate and a fork and a knife and put those in the sink and left everything else in the dishwasher. I thought blood was going to start gushing out of my ears. I had to get out. My plan to wait and save money to move felt like 1,000 years from now. I had one impulse to quench my rage. Drive.
In the shadows of night, I saw your light shine through. We talked to trees, whistling secrets, a love so true. When the stars align, somehow I know two souls collide, creating a loving glow. As the moonlight dances.
Tuesdays were even worse than Mondays. At least Monday was still loosely connected to the weekend. Tuesdays were just debauchery. Who would get drunk on a Tuesday night? People you don't want in your car when you're alone and a woman. AKA me. I made the usual rounds. I wasn't even expecting to pick anyone up, but it felt good to get out of my apartment. Mercy was right. The world is beautiful when it's asleep. So I went to Wood Tavern. Closed. I double-checked the time. 11:30 p.m. Tonight was dead. And then I saw her. Mercy. Walking alone in her majestic glide. She was 2 blocks away when I could see her hair. Apparently that hair could see me too, because she stopped and tilted her head. I could feel her smiling at me. I tossed the Carvel cup under the passenger seat and then gave my headlights a quick "how do you do" in her direction, and then pulled alongside her. She bent down and said, "Howdy, stranger." I asked if she needed a lift. She winked and got into the back seat. I thanked her profusely for that tip she left me last night. "You earned it." That wasn't true, but I didn't want to quibble. This was the most excitement I'd felt in forever. She asked if I picked anyone up tonight. I told her Tuesdays were dead nights. She said that's why she liked them. That was hot. Mercy was making me question my life choices, and I wasn't mad about it. She told me just to drive around again, see if we could find another stumbler. No such luck. Each bar we drove by had the lights off. I told her this was par for the course. She said to take a drive down Lamia Lane. This was an inside joke for locals. There was a tiny strip tucked away downtown where the homeless would hole up for the evening. It was a place you didn't want to walk around at during night or the day. Mercy did not have such apprehensions. She wanted to go to Lamia Lane. When I pulled up parallel to a long alley, I could see a row of homeless people setting up shop with their makeshift tents. Mercy got out of the car. I turned back, hurting my neck in the process, and asked what she was going to do. She just smiled and said to wait. My back was aching. Freshly 30 with back issues. And now, neck issues apparently. Also, my feet were tingling. No time for medical diagnosis. I watched. She knelt down beside the first homeless man she came across, who was sitting against the brick wall of the adjacent building. He had a little umbrella acting as a roof. It was starting to rain. I turned on the wipers, but was on my right, so I couldn't tell what was happening. After a couple of seconds, I could see scurrying. A homeless woman darted out of the alley and ran down the street. I rolled down the tip of the passenger side window so I could get a better view. Nothing. No mercy. The homeless man was twitching. I could see legs flapping. Then my door opened and shut. I quickly put my window up and then turned around. Mercy was drenched. Her milky white skin looked pink. She was flushed, laughing loudly. I couldn't see her face. She was laughing too hard, holding her stomach. "What happened?" I asked. She began to raise her head up towards me. She whipped her neck up and ran her hands through her hair, exuberated. She was leaning back. I could see her face now. There was blood on it. "Oh my God, are you okay, Mercy?" She pointed ahead and said, "Drive, darling." "Are you sure you're okay? Did he cut you or something?" She let her tongue extend out of her mouth like a crane, slowly sliding up and around her lips, savoring each drop of the blood. She looked out of the window where the homeless man's legs had now stopped twitching. What a beautiful night. I drove with no destination. I waited for her to instruct me, but all she did was slide her hands up and down her body as if it didn't belong to her. I started to get worried that she had stolen drugs off that homeless guy. It was the only way to explain her radical shift in mood. "Will I see you tomorrow night, darling?" "Yes," that's what I told her. She told me to pick her up, 9 p.m. I asked where she was going. Anywhere and everywhere. I like your company. It's quite rare for me, you know. There's another generous tip in it for you tomorrow if you comply. I said she didn't have to do that. My job was to drive her around. The tips weren't necessary. She said never argue with the customer. That's bad business. Then she told me to quit that dreadful diner job. I was too good for that. I told her I couldn't do that to Ruby. Plus, I needed the extra money. She leaned forward and rested her chin on the passenger side headrest. So sad. The power of the almighty dollar. How it holds us in its hands, slowly squeezing the soul until there is nothing left. If only you had another currency with such weight. As I pulled up outside her house, she leaned in as I leaned back. Her mouth was just inches from my ear. When she whispered, it felt like as if her words were sliding down my neck. Don't be late, darling. Before I could blink, she was out of the door. I didn't even see her leave. I put my head on a swivel to see which direction she had gone towards. No such luck. The tip? $500. This was getting crazy, but only made me more intrigued. I had never called out of work before. But if there was ever a moment to do it, that moment was now. I had made $750 in the past 2 nights for roughly an hour of work. Much better than the $7.25 per hour plus tips I got at Lenny's Diner. Ruby wasn't there either. Turns out her nephew had committed suicide. But they found his body in a bathtub. He had cut his throat and bled out. It was all over the news. Yet all I could think about was Mercy. I could still feel her whispers on my neck. 9 p.m. couldn't come soon enough. I tried to distract myself, but nothing worked. I couldn't even nap. I was in my car by 8 p.m. I thought maybe that would make time speed up. I got to her place by 8:30. Maybe she would want to hit the road early? She was punctual. I'll give her that. 9 p.m. on the dot, I heard a tap on my window. Her white teeth lit up her white eyes when she smiled. Aren't you a sight for sore eyes? She winked and then got into the back seat. I expressed how grateful I was for the tips, but she really shouldn't feel obligated to do that. It was too much. Nonsense, she said. You earned it. Now let's hit the road, shall we? I asked if she had a preference. She told me to go to the Colony. This was the best pizza place in town. I didn't see that coming. I wouldn't have pegged Mercy for a pizza fan. But then again, she seemed full of surprises. When I arrived, she told me to sit and idle and wait. Wait for what? I wondered. This is fun, isn't it? She seemed to revel in the question. She was right. This is fun. After a couple of minutes, a group of college kids exited Colony. They were decked out in their University of Rhode Island gear. They had clearly had a couple of drinks. The town was much more packed than normal due to college kids returning to their empty nests. Let's follow this gang for a bit. Perhaps one of them will need a ride? I did as the mad tipper requested, and I began to tail them. Not too close, she added. Mustn't let them know we're lurking. Followed by an adorable giggle. After a couple of blocks, the group splintered off into subsections. The pack of 7 became a pack of 4, a pack of 2, and then a lone wolf. The lone wolf was big, husky. He only had a t-shirt and shorts, yet seemed completely unaffected by the brisk weather. Do we have a winner? She asked with such glee. I took that as my cue to see if he needed a ride. He looked at me, then he looked at Mercy. He squinted. Half smiled, intrigued. I could tell he was buzzed. A ride? He said. What kind of ride? Whatever your heart desires, Mercy told him. She backed up and rubbed the empty seat. He laughed and looked around. This seemed too good to be true. I thought the same thing. Where was this ride going? What kind of ride was this? The catch had presented itself. Husky got into the back seat. Where's the party? he asked. "You're looking at it," Mercy said. "You gotta be kidding me," I thought. All this foreplay, and the climax is Husky getting busy with Mercy in the backseat of my Honda. Mercy told me to find a quiet place to park. If I'd gotten a tip for driving in circles, what was this gonna land me? Was I supposed to stay in the car? Was that a part of the kink? For me to watch? For me to participate? I did a U-turn away from the busy strip of restaurants. When I glanced back, I could see Mercy getting close to Husky. She took off her coat and giggled. He told her how hot she was. How romantic. I parked in the back of an empty Wendy's parking lot and waited to start my new career as a cuck. It got quiet. Too quiet. Then I heard some kind of moaning sound, followed by a gargle. This was too crazy. I turned around and blood squirted into my eyes. I quickly bent down and tried to frantically wipe it off. I swung wildly towards the passenger side door and got it open, shooting out onto the pavement. I leapt up and looked into the back seat. Husky's eyes were rolling into the back of their sockets. His legs and arms were flailing wildly, yet his face and torso seemed still. He was foaming at the mouth. I leaned in closer. Mercy's teeth were drilling through his neck. And then she tilted her head. She was staring at me while she sucked the life out of him. I couldn't move. My body felt like it was swimming in the cement. Quick flashes of white shook the air in front of me. And then I fell, straight backwards onto my back. A couple moments later, Mercy was standing above me, smiling. She took her right hand and slowly moved it down her mouth to her neck. I could see her elongated teeth. They looked like fangs. When she breathed, the air became red. Wind took the blood and escorted it into the dark sky. It danced like a sinister rainbow. Finally, she looked down and smiled. Pepperoni, my favorite. Anytime we hit a bump, I could hear his body in the trunk. Mercy was staring at his ID, directing me back to his address. I was on autopilot. I didn't speak. I didn't blink. I just drove. We finally got back to his house. The lights were off. There were 3 cars in the driveway, and it seemed like a lovely home. Mercy opened the back door and kicked Husky out onto the green lawn. She shut the door as Husky's body slowly rolled into the driveway and lay there motionless in his blood and soaked URI t-shirt. I caught her eyes in the reflection. She tilted her head and asked, "Fancy a nightcap?" I pulled into her driveway, her long, illuminated driveway. The further I drove down it, the wider it expanded. Space and time seemed to be overlapping as if my eyes were melting. I don't know how any of my limbs were still working. I put it in park and I stood idle. She leaned close. "It's much warmer inside. Come, darling." I was sitting in her living room on a red velvet chair. The ceilings must have been 100 feet high. Everything had golden frames, the fire was crackling, her self-portrait hung directly behind me. She sat down on her couch with a glass of red and kicked off her slippers. She was now wearing the silk purple nightgown. As she slithered into the leather, I could feel my face regain feeling. "I'd like to offer you a proposition. I've been in need for a driver. For quite some time, I'm afraid. Such hard work finding reliable colleagues. How would you feel about being my driver? It's quite lucrative, I can assure you." My eyes fluttered until they could see. I leaned my head forward. I could speak. Slowly, but I could speak. "What are you?" "Ah, yes. I've heard that one before. Quite a number of times, I'm afraid. Funny how questions seem to be irrelevant when money is doing all the talking. What are you? She sat up. Apparently, my repetition had garnered her full attention. She finished her glass of red and then looked me in the eyes. She spoke softer, yet the words echoed. It gets quite lonely, walking through the world. But ever since I saw you, I could tell you wanted something more. Out of life, out of yourself. It's all in the eyes, you know. Even through the dark, I could see that little fire inside of your heart. You could have stopped driving, yet you kept your foot on the pedal. Because it's not about the money. No. What you seek is the taste. Mercy stood up and walked over, gliding. The lights above began to fade. As she moved, her whole body elevated. She was now hovering above me as she kept speaking. If only you knew how delicious life can be. She stuck out her hand and turned over her palm. Her wrist had been cut. It was dripping blood. It flowed down her arm. The waves of blood seemed to dance around her. It was directly in front of my face. The smell was intoxicating. I looked down at my feet. I couldn't feel the carpet anymore. I was now eye level with her self-portrait. The flames had risen out of the furnace and began to swim around us. Her eyes were engulfed in fire. I looked at my skin, my milky white skin. Her mouth didn't move, but I could still hear her words, clear as night. Tell me, darling, shall we go for a ride?